Before Bob gets started, thanks for the scouting report. We had the speaker on before I jumped on. Really appreciate all you guys with the UCA little themes that I jotted down all your guys' notes. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the scout.
Eric, on that theme, what's your take on UCA? And I looked, they're a pretty good three-point shooting team. I think they're shooting about 39% on threes.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to defend the three. I think it starts with 55 Jones at the point, all-time assist leader, second leading scorer, and then you move to Bergerson, number one, who's, their scorer. I actually coached against his father. They're a good rebounding team too. I mean, they're +3 on the glass. And they played against, Arkansas, Little Rock, Memphis, and St. Louis. So rebounding is going to be important. Transition defense is going to be paramount. After a made basket, the first 12 seconds of your defense become really important. 54% of their shots come within the first 12 seconds after a made basket. Usually teams run after a miss. They're running after made baskets. So our transition from offense to defense, there's going to have to be no lag time. And then our offense just can't fight against itself. We've got to constantly, play unselfish, which we have for most of the year.
Well, what were the circumstances you played against his dad?
I can't remember. It had to be the CBA.
Okay. And then
don't quote me on that, please. Somebody do research because I got it from Ruda and he's wrong half the time. So
okay, we'll put Andrew.
Somebody please do research on
Andrew's like the Library of Congress. We'll put him on that. And then the historical aspect of this, Arkansas hadn't played UCA since 1947. Hadn't scheduled a team from the state since 1950. So that's before we were born. So that was a long time ago. Well, what's your take on the historical aspect of this matchup?
Nikki, what are you drinking? And Scotty, what are you drinking?
Water.
Water, that's good for you. Nikki?
A little draft latte.
Okay. All right, good. Sorry, Bob. Bob, you're going with water?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good for you. As far as the, like scheduling in state, I mean, I'm new, not really overly concerned with, things that I can't control, which is the past. I think it's great game to schedule, and like I mentioned, we tried to schedule everybody, before the season as well. And, I think it's good and we're excited. I hope our players are excited. I'm sure UCA is. And I think it's, when you talk about the state, I think there'll be great interest in the game. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a pretty good educated guess that there'll be excitement because it's an in-state game. And now we got to go play the game. And they're a good team. They really are. They have an identity. It's the hardest thing in any sport, I think, is to try to create an identity, and they have some identities or they have some themes, like I said, that you guys were even pointing out before I jumped on, and Mike was gracious enough to leave the speaker on so I could kind of hear your guys' input and kind of evaluate, how much you guys really know about UCA.
I got some more, but I'll pass it back to Mike.
Hutch?
Yeah, Coach, I think you mentioned last night that UCA you had reached out possibly playing them twice this week if you hadn't been able to find a replacement game. And what were the conversations like with UCA, and what do you think about, how willing they were to possibly do that?
I mean, to go into further detail, Hutch, I could yell down the hall, "Hey, Ruda," and we could get him in here as quick as possible, because I never sent the text. I mean, obviously, Coach Walker and I talked. I did not talk to anybody with UCA, but Coach Ruda, he did. He's got the text thread. I was just getting the messages. So I don't know, Hutch, the exact extent of it, other than Ruda said, "What do you think about potentially playing a Friday, Saturday if we can't figure something else out?" I think UCA would at least be open to that discussion.
Curtis.
Hey, Coach, you've been able to tinker with a lot of different combinations the last couple games. Have you found anything in particular that stood out to you that you liked? And then I wanted to ask you specifically about the couple times you've had the 4 freshmen in there together. Obviously, people around the state appreciate that. Was that by design, and what do you think about those guys on the floor together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that twice we've done it, and both times, I recognized that it was happening. Yeah, I think that, like one of the conversations that I had, like with the administration on the Southern game, was I thought that, if we could play the way that we're capable of, that we would be able to look at different lineups early in the game in the first half. And I think one of these recent games I had 10 players in the first half, and then I think last night we had 9 that all got in the first 14 or first 15 minutes of the game. Just from an experience standpoint, I think it helps. It also helps evaluate. I can't foresee us having a long, drawn out, rotation when we get to SEC play. And I think guys are kind of playing into the, people always ask, well, what's your rotation going to look like? What's the minutes distribution going to look like? The players create it. And you can look at the stat sheet, and you can look at the plus minus sheet. And, maybe next time we do one of these, I'll listen in and you guys can talk about rotation. And it's really hard to play 9 or 10 guys. I mean, even when we have a large lead and you're doing it, I get it. Like like when I'm watching, an NBA game, I'm like, hey, why can't they get this draft pick in? Or but when you're coaching, you understand at the snap of a finger how momentum can change. And I look at some of the games that we've had huge comebacks with, and I attribute it, you can learn from winning, you can learn from losing, you can learn from other people, but I've seen people who mess around with rotations, and that's how you can come back when you're up 20. And we've done it plenty of times, been on the end of somebody playing guys that we feel that we can exploit it and get a quick 8-0 run, and then before you know it, you're back in the game. And so these games have been great. From an evaluation standpoint, they've been great from the ability to kind of look and see which combinations work. Do we rebound enough with this group? Does the ball move enough with that group? So I think now that we're 5 games in, we're coming up with some really good themes and some good body of work on how we want to go moving forward.
Scotty.
Hey, Coach, just from a discipline standpoint, how impressive has Connor been, defensively blocking and altering shots? And, he's rarely been whistled for a foul this year. No,
he's done a great job. I mean, you look, he shoot 58% from the field, 45 from the 3, small sample size of FTAs, but hasn't missed a free throw, almost 9 rebounds a game, 18 blocks, 5 steals. I mean, he's played phenomenal. He really has. And he's got such a great attitude, and he knows all of our offensive plays, and he doesn't try to do things that that stretches game out too much. So he's really been great.
Brett. Nikki.
Coach, with several double-digit wins, the fan base is almost, at this point ready for SEC play. With how the team is playing, execution and cohesion and stuff, like how far off are they from the performance level you want when SEC play gets here? Yeah,
I mean, I think like the big thing is, we actually, I'm not sure if it's, 3 or whatever it is, but we have less non-conference games. Everybody in college does this year. And I think those are important. So you take the no exhibition games, the no secret scrimmages, and then you add in non-conferences, a smaller sample size than it has been in the past. these games are definitely a necessity. I think that if we're not continuing to get better, if we're not tinkering, if we're not adding something new, meaning offensively, a new zone offense, whatever it may be, we've got to continue to try to get better each night out. We need to continue to add to our menu of what we can do offensively and defensively. And so, we have 3 games before we have a little mini break in the holidays. And so it's important, I think, Nikki, that we just keep getting a little bit better incrementally. And then again, try to fine tune exactly what our rotation is. And, like JD gave up a layup off baseline out of bounds defense. He wasn't what we call engaged. And I can't fathom that. Like, how could he just give up such an easy layup? And so those things we'll continue to use film and try to keep getting better, really.
Jacob?
Eric, kind of going off that, through 5 games in such an unusual season with a bunch of new faces on this team, how are they meshing through the first couple weeks of the season, especially with really not being able to do too much off the floor?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. And I think that, before practice, after practice, guys aren't going in the locker room and hanging out. They're out on the floor working on their game and talking. And, Doc Rivers used to call it basketball bonding, that time before practice, the time after practice. I think they've done a great job of just kind of buddy basketball bonding when the coaches are off to the side, and they continue to work on their games. They got roommates, so they're, some of the guys are playing video games together all the time. And so I think the chemistry's come together as good as it could. I know last night I mentioned like Jalen Tate. I loved how he was kind of coaching when he was out of the game. I loved how Desi, and I watched it again this morning, how Desi's standing up coaching with 1 minute to go. Love the fact that Devo Davis as a freshman is yelling at guys to X off of his free throw in case he missed one of his free throws. So a lot of really, really positive little things, Jacob, have been happening. But again, we got to keep getting better. I mean, we don't want to be, we got to get better. I know that.
Randy?
I'm a stat person, Coach. One stat that didn't show up is the number of altered shots by Connor Vanover. How much as a staff do you put into the altered shots by Connor Vanover?
Yeah, I mean, we look at 3-point under duress shots. We look at shots at the rim that are altered, Randy. I think all those things are really important from a defensive standpoint because, really what you want to do defensively is just lower the opponent's percentage, each guy individually and then the team as a whole. So I think that he's done a great job. Most importantly, he's allowed us to have great backcourt pressure, and he's allowed us to gamble because if a team has a 2-on-1, he does a great job of playing cat and mouse and understanding to stunt and bluff and then get back and protect the rim.
Jason?
Hey, Coach, I wonder about the in-game roles for your coaches. I see them talking to different guys, specific guys. They're holding up the signs. Kind of how do you assign those in-game roles? And then once you get in the game, kind of what everybody's trying to do to keep the guys focused or whatever their role.
Jason, I was going to ask you the question. What do you think of the creativity on the signs? Have you?
I like the mix of different signs for whatever they're for. Yeah. So
have you noticed the different graphics and?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
okay.
It looks good. No, I was just curious, kind of how I see David talking to a different guy and Corey, and then kind of how you assign because I see you kneeling down and talking to them. Yeah, I just didn't know how you assign those roles during.
Yeah. So Coach Patrick's holding up our offensive play calls Coach Mosier's holding up our offensive half-court plays. Coach Patrick's holding up our defensive signs, what we're in pick and roll, if we're in a full-court defensive trap, if we're in a half-court defense, if we're in our 23 zone defense. And then Coach Williams is holding up our side out of bounds and baseline out of bounds. And then also when we're shooting a free throw, Coach Williams is holding up a sign on what we're doing. When the opponent is shooting a free throw, he's holding up a sign. Some of the things are words printed out. Others are graphics that they know what they mean, meaning our team knows. We've tried to be a little bit creative and we're holding those signs up, quite frankly, because with the masks, some people disagree. You can't hear very well with the masks. Now, it's amazing how many people say, oh, yeah, you can hear with the mask, but those people aren't coaching. So in all honesty, like your voice only carries so far, regardless of what everybody says that, oh, yeah, you can really hear. Well, you can't lip read with the mask, and it's really hard to hear. So that's why we've come up with the signs, even in, buildings that we know we're going to play that are not very full or maybe no fans at all. The signs have helped us dramatically, because of the fact that it's really hard to hear anything. I mean, it's awesome that the refs can't hear me with the mask on, but probably not so awesome that our team can't hear me.
Kyle.
Hey, Coach, just to hammer home the idea of playing UCA, I mean, it seems like you and Coach Neighbors have both made playing in-state teams, a real priority. Do you have a sense from talking to people in the state how much it means to so many people to really see a team from Fayetteville play a team from Conway?
Yeah, I read everything and listen to as much as I can. And I understand, the importance and the excitement of a game like this. And, I talked to Coach Neighbors, and I know, he's obviously spent way more time in the state than I have. And he felt like it's a great idea. And Hunter and I have talked about it. And, so yeah, I think it's great. I think that it's good for UCA too. It's easier to travel on them. It's good for their brand. It's good for our brand. I don't see any, negatives at all. I think it's a really positive thing, for the fans, for both programs. And your fan base is so important on how, how do they feel about things. It's, I know some people don't like to say that, but I do. I think the pulse of your fan base is extremely important.
Bob, got a final follow-up?
Yeah, a couple, if that's okay. Eric, I was watching SportsCenter last night, and they had not one but two Justin Smith dunks on their top 10.
Bob, we don't have it. Did you tape that for us?
No. What do you mean you don't have it? You got everything. You probably get.
I'm going to get it some way, shape, or form. But Danielle will probably get it before me.
Yeah,
but we're going to get it some
she's got
way.
connections. Anyway, I guess I know Justin's real athletic. I guess I hadn't thought about him being like a major dunker. Just wonder what do you think about that, and how good is that for the program? Presumably, kids see that, whether it's on their phones or on their TVs, that you had two SportsCenter highlight dunks from Justin.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to get a hold of those. If anybody has them, please forward them to us or forward them to Mike Haywood. We need them bad. I think it's awesome. We knew coming in his vertical leap. He's an incredible leaper, and I think the thing with him is he's a powerful dunker as well. But I think anytime you can get on da-na-na, it's a really, really good thing.
And then Desi mentioned you had 250-something passes last
257,
night.
Bob.
257.
Yep.
Is that a record? And just how do you feel about that?
Well, I was more concerned when I heard Desi say that in the press conference. I was wondering if he was counting those passes in game or not, because he did get the number right on spot. But yeah, I think it's great. That's those. We've had 2 games now of our highest ball sharing games, and that's including JD, who gets a shot up about every minute. So overly impressive that we've passed the ball over 200 times now twice.
So that's your highest totals, including Nevada, or just here at Arkansas?
For sure here at Arkansas. We didn't want to pass the ball too much last year. We tried to keep it, 2 or 3 guys' hands. And so maybe the 200 passes, I might have told all you guys it was important, but I was really, going to bed at night saying, please don't pass 200 times.
Just because you thought you'd turn it over?
Or something not good would happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Coach.